Thank you to Phaedra Parks, and thank you to Silk, America's #1 plant-based beverage. Heck yeah! What a start to the show. Okay, folks, let's move on here. We got a lot of stuff that I want to catch up on. This weekend, you got a lot of stuff ahead of you to watch if you are TV viewers. So the second season of Severance, the first couple of episodes dropped on Apple TV. We've been talking about that. I really highly recommend this show. If you have not seen the first season, do yourself a favor and start. It has so much, just such a offbeat sense of humor, mystery, suspense, style. I got sent the first 6 episodes of the second season, and I have not been able to start because I got to do this, and I cannot wait to dig in. It's going to be my treat this weekend that I can't wait to get to. So highly recommend Severance. I haven't seen the second season yet, but it comes out today on Apple TV. And I think just do yourself a favor and watch. And remember, it's a little left of center, so it's going to feel a little weird at first if you haven't watched it before, but commit to it. Give yourself over to it. Obviously, I said before, this season of The Traitors, I think this past episode was worth its weight in gold. So The Traitors is doing what it needs to do. This Tom Sandoval, does he know? Like, I sometimes, I said this last, I was like, I wonder if he suspects that he's a traitor himself and just doesn't know it yet. Like, half the time I feel like he does not know what's going on. But this is what I told you from the very beginning when he was cast, was that he is going to be comedic gold. Whatever your personal feelings are about Tom Sandoval and Scandoval and all that stuff, I totally get it. But he is just so ridiculously funny, and he's not trying to be funny, but there were multiple times where I just guffawed. I literally guffawed because it was just so ridiculous. So Traitors, catch up on that if you haven't. Remember, the episode 2 gets a little in the weeds, but episode 3 gets good again, and then episode 4, I think, just knocks it out of the park. Now, over on Max, we also have this new documentary series called An Update on Our Family. And the first episode is out right now. And this has a special connection to us, you guys, us baddies, because our very own Sophie Ross, she stars in this. She is a part of this as a talking head. She literally opens this series up, and it's really interesting. It's inspired by Caitlin Moscatello's piece in The Cut about the Stauffer family who adopted a young boy from China and later gave him up for readoption. And, you know, I'm not a big YouTuber in the sense of following YouTubers, and I didn't follow mommy bloggers. You know, the last couple of years doing this, I've been more familiar, but I never got that. And, you know, I almost have this chip on my shoulder sometimes about YouTube. But sometimes I'm like, oh, YouTube, really? Like, come on, you're watching YouTube? When YouTube is one of the, if not the #1 source of things that people watch nowadays. But like, I'm still in this kind of legacy media where no, you've got to see narrative storytelling or reality TV, not giving proper flowers to. There is reality TV on YouTube. They're following around these families, but this one family, the Stauffer family, did something wild. And I was so upset after the first episode ended because I was in it and I wanted to watch the second episode, and we got to wait a couple more days. Sophie will be back on Monday's episode and we'll talk to her, but I was really proud of her. And I remember she told me about this a while back. She saw a screening of it and I didn't put it together. And then I was watching it the other night. And, you know, obviously Sophie's already killing it, but halfway through, they show an image of So Bad It's Good, of one of the beautiful images Maritza made, Maritza Lopez, also the host of the podcast Love is Latino, which you should still be subscribing to. I think she's doing another season of Love is Blind coming up. But the image is there, and this is like, you know, it's a real fast image, but it was really cool to see. But what also made it so special for me was that this was many, many years ago, this image, but it has a picture of my mom and dad and me on vacation when we went to Florida. And I thought, I don't know, that meant something to me. I just thought, oh, how cool. It's like I got to see my mom for a second and she made it to HBO Max. Mom, you did it. You made it to a streaming service. Woo! So an update on our family. I think it's worth the watch, the first episode, and I'm really excited to see where the story goes. Now, also over on Peacock, this is for all, I think this is just interesting. This is my jam completely. We have SNL 50 Beyond Saturday Night, which is a 4-part docuseries. Each one of these episodes is an hour long, and it takes you behind the scenes of Saturday Night Live as this year they are celebrating their 50th anniversary. And sometimes as I get further into this, we all talk. And I think if you're listening, you're kind of interested in the mechanics of how things are made. Even when I don't find Saturday Night Live funny, and I'll still watch it, like I said, every week because it's just tradition. It's an institution. That's what you do. It's so American that even when it's not funny, you still do it because that's what you do. You're just so used to watching this show. But you get to see behind the scenes of what it takes to get on the show, what it takes to write the show, what it takes to produce the show. And it is such an interesting look. Now, I've only been able to watch 3 episodes because each is an hour long, and I would love to be watching the 4th one right now, but I'm talking to you guys, and that's a pretty good trade-off. But the first episode is all just around the casting, and you get to see a lot of the cast, their initial auditions, which I've read like the books about SNL. I have friends that have been on it. I know it, but it's so great and so amazing to see some of them because what they get that first time when you're on the SNL stage, when you're auditioning, the legendary SNL stage at 30 Rock, you get to do 5 minutes and it's in front of like Lorne Michaels and the producers in this, they darken out that area and they have to come out there and do 5 minutes. You got to do characters, bits in 5 minutes. And it's a real cold room in the sense that they don't laugh. They don't laugh. So you're doing jokes that you don't even know are landing. But I just geeked out on this. That was the first episode. The second episode takes you into the writer's room of how the show is put together, how each week when they come in Monday, they pitch some ideas to the guests just to, show the guests, hey, you're in good hands. Tuesday is the writing day. They're there till like 4 a.m. Wednesday is the read through where they take 5 hours, like a full 5-hour session of reading through 35 to 40 sketches to choose the 12 that they're going to start working on. And then Thursday, rewrite day, Friday, shoot day for like outside bits and rehearsal. And then Saturday, all day you're rehearsing, but it also takes you behind the scenes with the costume department, the people that build the sets. It is so amazing from a production standpoint just to watch it. Now, the third episode is dedicated just to one sketch and one sketch entirely, and that is More Cowbell, the iconic Will Ferrell, Christopher Walken sketch from, I believe, the year 2000. Is that right? I need more cowbell. I got a fever and I need more cowbell. And it takes you to Will's conception of this based on the Blue Oyster Cult song, Don't Fear the Reaper. And it is just, it's a little kooky, the third episode, but it works because it has pop-up appearances from like Dave Grohl, Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age, the actual members of the band Blue Oyster Cult. But it was still really, really good. And Will Ferrell, man, oh God, there's some people, it's like, I think, you talk about it's not good to have heroes, right? It's not great. It's good. But as you get older, you're like, just everyday people, those are the heroes. But Will Ferrell, it would really bum me out to find out if he's a serial killer, right? Like that would bum me out. I'd be like, damn. Because he just seems like just driven by a simple mechanic of wanting to make people laugh, of just wanting to laugh. And it's just that simple for him. And my God, he's just so good at it. It's just so simple. And I love that so much about him. So that's over there on Peacock. So check that out. Now, we have a bunch of different movies that have hit streaming. And one is which I think should be up for Oscar nominations. It had a Golden Globe nomination. In fact, Sebastian Stan just won a Golden Globe for his lead role in the movie A Different Man, which is about a man who undergoes a miracle surgery for his facial deformity. And this just hit Max on streaming. So I think that's amazing. Now, over on Hulu, we have another movie that'll probably be nominated for an Oscar or Oscars. It's called A Real Pain, directed and acted by Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin, who just won a Golden Globe as well. You can now stream that on Hulu. Also, we have a new episode of SNL this week with host Dave Chappelle, musical guest Glorilla. So that's there if you want that. And there is just so many like, listen, it's Friday night. And you know, if it's Friday night, folks, there's one show and one show only that I'm going to be watching. It's a little show called Love After Lockup. Well, there's different iterations of Love After Lockup. You got Love After Lockup, Love During Lockup, but the more the better. Now, this season of Love During Lockup, I don't think it's been its strongest season, but it is still amazing to me. And by the way, this Love After Lockup, it's for OG reality show watchers. I've recommended this to people and they're like, "You're sick." I don't even get you are a sick man, which I partially agree with, but it is still, to me, just we love watching it every Friday night, and it's something that I look forward to every week. So that is airing as well. But you know, obviously, so much to catch up on everywhere. You got so much Bravo. We had a full week of Bravo. Potomac, Married to Medicine, Below Deck Sailing Yacht, Real Housewives of New York is still kicking. I believe their season finale is coming up this week. You got Sold on SLC, Southern Charm, Southern Hospitality, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I mean, it is just Bravo is in full swing right now. You had new episodes of Watch What Happens Live this week. So there obviously is so much to keep you entertained. And if I'm forgetting something, I'll just add it to the list for Monday. But I'm I'm even getting stressed just like making lists of things to watch, because I'm like, okay, it's getting to be too much. Can we please slow it down? Slow it down. But yeah, no, we're really lucky. We're really lucky. We're really lucky. Oh, you guys, listen, not that I think people are getting real sick of this, but I want to do an update, a long update. It's just that things keep happening. Not just the fire in my nose, but things keep happening in the actual story about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, right? And it is hard for me to even catch up. My mind has not been the best, most pop culture focused in these last couple of weeks. I'm hanging in there, but there has been a lot happening. But I am not excited, but I will be invested in doing another episode going over Baldoni's complaint, because a new lawsuit just got filed this week, which is 182 pages. And this thing, like this, what it doesn't break my heart, but these complaints are better than the actual movie. Like, I mean, just in terms of just shock value and entertainment and a look. I mean, I was just talking about how Saturday Night Live is made in the peek behind the curtain. This is a peek behind the curtain of Hollywood, of how movies are put together, how PR campaigns are run, how artistry or fake artistry, like the amount of kissing ass you have to do in terms of a project. Now, I think I spoke about this on Monday or Tuesday. The initial Blake Lively complaint, when it broke down the meeting that was had between the studios, Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, Ryan Reynolds, all of these people, 30 points that had to be agreed on for Blake Lively to come back to the set after the strike ended, right? And there was so many conditions on this about harassment, about the way that she wanted to be treated on set. Don't talk about communicating with my dead father, Justin Baldoni, a lot. And what's interesting, and what one of the things this case hinges on, is they're saying this meeting doesn't exist. And that is shocking to me. But the most recent complaint paints such a different picture, or maybe a clearer picture. And from those first wave of drops before Christmas, it's not about like choosing sides, but I thought Blake Lively had a very, very strong case. And then when they came back and said that meeting didn't exist, I was really kind of confused about this. The new complaint that just dropped, the legal document, there are so many text exchanges between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, and some of them are just jaw-dropping because it paints a completely different picture than the one that we first got. Now, I don't want to jump on the bandwagon and just say, oh, F Blake Lively, da da da. No, no, I want to take this apart when we have the time, piece by piece, and try to really figure this out because there are so many variables in this. There does seem to be, at first glance, an overreach by Blake Lively in terms of being an actor on this film and potentially wanting to be more. Wanting to be the actual director of this film. It does seem like they had a very good relationship up to a certain point in terms of just their text exchanges. But what I'm also confused about so far, and that's why I need to do more research before I talk about this at length, is I still don't understand if this happened, why Blake did, I have to believe that Blake truly believes she was harassed to do this. And you could say, well, that's just ego, that's just this, or that's just Ryan Reynolds, da, 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 da. But there's got to be, because she would have had to know that Justin Baldoni has all and would eventually release all of these text messages, not between the PR people, between them, between Blake and Justin, which paints a very different picture. And so I think it is given so much more fuel to this story. I mean, I just feel like these people are both going to sue themselves into oblivion over the next couple of years. And obviously that is not what we want to focus on when, there's all of these obvious tragedies that are happening in the real world. But it is fascinating from this pop culture angle of just the back and forth, and where this goes. And at this point, that, like I keep talking about that 30 point. If they can prove that actually happened and Justin and Wayfair signed off on that, Blake could win that case, in my opinion. But it looks like from this latest complaint, Blake is going to have, once again, a hard time winning public favor. It already seems to be swinging way back to let's look at this Baldoni, how it seems like poor guy, he was just trying to do his job. Once again, I try to remind the audience, things aren't black and white. There is so much gray area. Yeah, that will be coming soon, because now I'm more curious than ever. And at the same time, you're just like, God, you guys both are just coming off. Do you sometimes wish you could just I mean, I guess we can just completely disconnect if we want to, but sometimes after you've watched the 80th TikTok about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, you're like, come on, move it. I can't do another one of these. Which, by the way, Sunday, we might not have to do any more of these because the TikTok ban has been upheld. We talked about this earlier in the week. So the 19th, the Supreme Court has upheld the ban in a 9-0 decision, saying that this needs to be banned. There is going to be a ban. Joe Biden has left this, though, to the next administration, the Trump administration. He wasn't going to put a stop to it. He announced that, I believe, yesterday. And so he leaves it to the next administration. So you're on TikTok. I'm sure a lot of you guys are on the app. I am not good at TikTok. I don't make a lot of content on there, but I consume a lot of content on there. And I've told you, you'd be surprised. I'm not out there consuming Bravo content and pop. I'm usually consuming just random people content, for me, or toy collectors or record collectors. And TikTok is pretty great for that. Now, at the same time, let's point out at the end of the day, it's a corporation. It's there to make money. It's there to try to colonize our minds and our brains and our time. And this TikTok app, it's dangerous because it does it really well. But at the end of the day, it's just out there to get money. But I am very sad for all of the creators out there that seem like this is a lot of their lifeblood. And if you are a TikTok creator and you are in the entertainment field or Bravo field and you're listening, I doubt you are, but if you are, reach out to me. I'd happy to, hopefully have you on this show sometime, and you can hopefully build a platform somewhere else if TikTok truly does go away. My theory, not my theory, but what I just predict will happen is something very simple, is that I believe Donald Trump will have a stay on this where he'll do well, I'm going to work it out with China. That's my horrible Donald Trump. Is that he's going to Xi Jinping, he's going to work it out with the Chinese, the guy over there. There'll be a 9-month stay, and he will look like a hero in the first week taking office. That's what I predict. Who knows? I mean, it seems like the Senate, all that, they're real gung ho on getting this thing out. But you got to also remember, and this isn't a conspiratorial take, this is just reality, is that you've also had to look at who this benefits, right? It benefits Meta. It benefits Mark Zuckerberg. It benefits X and Elon Musk. These people, they're all fighting, these billionaires fighting the front line for our eyes and our ears. So it's one of those things you have to, it's this stance of like, oh, the Chinese are spying on us. Maybe most apps are spying on us. Spyware exists in American apps. I mean, I understand in theory what they're saying, but it's kind of a joke when it doesn't hold a lot of water, because then you add all of these other things. Well, that's kind of what Meta's doing. That's kind of what X is doing. They're all data farming and all, so I do predict that it will not go away, and I think Trump will save it, or save it for a certain amount of time. But I could be wrong, and I will say, like, I'm sad for the creators. I would not be happy about it, but at the same time, I'm kind of addicted to it now. I go in waves with TikTok, and maybe we could just take a week off, and I'll like read a book with my eyes again or something. So I don't know. I guess stay tuned. By Monday, we'll find out. I do have to say there is something so weird and interesting in terms of pop culture, though, about TikTok, in that in its final weeks, obviously due to the fires, one of the send-offs of TikTok is that Spencer Pratt and Heidi Montag have reached levels of fame, obviously because of tragedy, but has been such a story because of Spencer's TikTok. I mean, it's going now around all social medias. And by the way, stream Heidi Montag Superficial. Let's keep her at number 1 or number 2. I know she overtook Bad Bunny for a second, but she was number 1, I think, in like 7 or 9 countries. And this Spencer has to be on fumes over the last week. And just the amount of energy this man is exerting. And so many people have strong opinions about Spencer and Heidi, and I've told you about my opinions about them. And Spencer has always been somebody that has supported all of us content creators, and obviously it's a two-way street. But like, he came on my show when it was nothing, and he's always been really good to me in this show. But I will say I've gone through. It's been such an emotional release watching his family go through that and watching him still celebrate these wins. And I know there's this weird argument people are starting to have, which I predicted on my Patreon this week. I said, when there's so much positivity in one way, the usual pendulum will swing in pop culture, where people will start putting negative things out or try to bash somebody. But you don't want to play with Spencer Pratt, man. Spencer will go to war. And I think this is not the time for any sort of negativity. And what I do think about Spencer is that's the kind of person that is so driven. I do believe this man will rebuild his home in the Palisades and will rebuild his parents' home, and then he truly will help rebuild the Palisades and give back to the victims. But it almost makes, this is like, to my theory that we live in a simulation, that somebody somewhere is just playing us like video games. Like, who would have predicted any of this, and that Spencer and Heidi would be the face of a tragedy when at one point they were considered villainous on the hills decades ago? Who would have ever in a million years thought? And in some way, I think that's the beauty of pop culture and the beauty of survival and staying around and just showing the ups and downs of life. Obviously, we see it through this pop culture lens, but we all go through the ups and downs of life, right? One year you're having a really, truly bad season in your real life, and the next year you start to have hope and some amazing things happen, and then 5 years later, tragedy hits. That's life, and I think we're seeing it through that pop culture lens. So it's been really, I've teared up watching these damn videos. Watching him go live on TikTok and just like exerting all of this energy, and you're like, holy shit, I need this guy to be my manager. My God. And the way he just pushes that Heidi, like, believes in Heidi, like, oh my God, this is number 1 pop superstar in the world. There is something so exciting about that, but also I believe it puts a big magnifying glass on this tragedy. And there is a spillover effect that does help all of the people that have never been on TV, that have lost their homes and stuff like that. So I think it is such a net positive overall. And I hope that you would think the same thing. I mean, some people really were bothered that I stood up for Heidi and Spencer. And that I'm just, especially in tragedy, I try to understand people's feelings from both sides, and I can be reactionary myself at times. You've seen it or you've heard it here, but I try to then look at everything, and I just don't know if there's a place for that argument at this moment right now at all. But I found it very interesting. Okay, moving on to Paige DeSorbo. Now, obviously, Paige DeSorbo and Craig Conover are number one Bravo couple of the last couple of years. They split up. They're two grown adults. We talked about Craig coming back on Instagram and saying like, hey, you know, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, you get back out there. And we are in a season of Southern Charm, which just aired this newest episode on Thursday, where Paige is a part of Craig's storyline because they're together. And that is just so bizarre, I have to imagine, for both of them to be on TV in a relationship. And especially in this week's episode, when Paige is talking about Craig's relationship with Austin and their podcast, Pillows and Beer. God, the fact in 2025 that podcasting has become such a storyline in terms of all Bravo is mind-blowing to me in certain ways. But there's actual fights where, hey, they almost want to paint Paige DeSorbo as the Yoko Ono of Southern Charm, of Craig, you know, of Paige DeSorbo breaking up the legendary Pillows and Beers duo of Austin Kroll and Craig Conover. When it's all of a sudden, by the way, Paige has, I think, one of, if not the number one podcast out there, Giggly Squad. They just sold out, you guys, 2 nights at not Madison Square Garden. I mean, probably eventually at Radio City Music Hall. That is a legendary venue. 2 nights they sold that out. Holy balls, you guys. And that's a podcast that doesn't even talk about reality shows. It's just based on their friendship. That's wild. But there was this story, because we're always looking for stories, that over the weekend, Paige was seen in a luxury box at the Philadelphia Eagles game, which I've heard is a football team, and they won. They were in a box, and they were in with this guy, and they were like, oh, is Paige dating this man? And there was a real blurry photo. We did this news story earlier in the week, but people were really invested. Is Paige dating? My thing is, she's single. She can do whatever she wants. She can literally do whatever she wants. She shouldn't be shamed about it, guilted about it, which, by the way, Paige seems stronger than I ever will be as a person. So I think she's okay, but people are always looking to make somebody a villain in any sort of breakup or in life in general. And once again, we don't look at the grays, we look in black and white. We need somebody to be the villain, right? In this, as I told you, I feel bad for Craig just because I always know that a lot of us men, I know if you're listening, you're going to be potentially mad at me or not wanting to agree with me. We're soft. I'm soft. You're soft. It's okay. We're not tough and machismo like Mark Zuckerberg. We're soft. And so I just sometimes get nervous for Craig because I think Paige has such a belief in herself. And you know what? Maybe sometimes, well, it was really the laying down on Summer House that kind of annoyed me at first. But maybe if I were to look deeper, maybe it's that extreme confidence in herself that perturbed me at times because I don't have that same belief. So maybe there's jealousy there. Maybe. Who knows? Well, get this, you guys. Today, this guy, I don't want to, we'll say his name, but the guy that Paige was in the box with, I guess had a fiance. Her name is Rachel Durante. And I'm saying this because she posted an Instagram story today that is making its way around. And it's cryptic. It's a little mysterious. I don't know if it's Paige that she's referring to, but it would line up. I mean, it's cryptic in the way like Khloe Kardashian likes to be cryptic, but it's a big old paragraph. So this is what she wrote in her Instagram story with a blue sky with clouds in it. She wrote, regarding what's been out there this past week during my relationship, disrespectful messages were sent to a man who was spoken for with absolutely no regard or respect for another woman or her relationship, insinuating for him to leave me for her. As my relationship went on, the banter continued, and I was purposely made to feel insecure, and my relationship was undermined. As someone who holds himself to such a high standard and Wait, as someone who holds himself to such a high standard and claims to be a girl's girl, her actions contradict this. I had the courage to leave a toxic situation, and as a girl's girl myself, I'll continue to lift other women up and their relationships up, not try to tear them down for my own good. I refuse to have anyone lie on my name and write their own false narratives about my life, ... It is what it is. I wish everyone the best. And then she did a blue heart emoji. It's always important to say what emojis. Blue heart emoji. So the internet did this, and the internet did their thing. And people were like, she's talking about Paige. She's talking about Paige. Uh-oh, something's going on. Did Paige do something? Did Paige steal this man away? I don't think Paige, that doesn't, like, no, I don't think, I'm sure there's more to this. You know, like, it does seem like she's calling out somebody. She does not name Paige, but since her ex-fiance, this Rachel Durante, her ex-fiance, was the man that Paige was with the Eagles game, people are putting those dots together and saying it must be about Paige. But remember, we don't know the actual story. We don't know the story. She says she left a toxic situation. We don't know what he was doing in that situation. We don't know what Paige was aware of. So before anybody points fingers at Paige, I mean, I think we like to make people villains, but I think Paige is too strong, and I would expect some kind of pithy, funny response from Paige, but I truly don't believe she would steal another person's man. I do believe Paige is very confident. She does what she wants. I'm sure Paige obviously is also a feeling human being. So it is. Does anybody have eyes on Craig, by the way? Is Craig okay? I just hope he's okay, but that just came out today. So let me know your thoughts on this. I'm sure more information will come out, but I don't foresee this having legs in terms of Paige actively doing something to break up somebody else's relationship when she still was heavily in that relationship with Craig. I don't see it. Even Sophie, we've talked about over the year, I just don't see Paige that way. And I think she is very popular. I think a lot of people don't see her that way. So I wanted to point that out, but it is interesting when you talk about Southern Charm this week, watching Paige be pegged as this Yoko type character of breaking up pillows and beers, and Southern Charm ended this week where Craig, well, first off, Venita jumped into the pool at this pool party over at, who was it? Sally's? The new cast member. Yeah, this new cast member, Sally, was having this like housewarming party. And at the end, Venita jumps in the pool and then like didn't catch a breath and all of a sudden starts drowning. And everybody's just looking around. And then Craig Conover, hero, jumps in the pool, and it looks like his phone was in his pocket. He had these nice leather shoes on, I think. Jumps in. This man is a damn hero. This man is a damn hero. Jumped in. Nobody else. Shep was there. Whitney was there. Austin was there. But Craig jumps into this 4-foot deep pool and saves Venita. It was very powerful. Very bad. And Craig must have felt like a real hero. And he is. This, Southern Charm is one of those easy breezy shows. It will have these pop off moments that I love, but it's 10 seasons in. So I'm fully addicted to Southern Charm. There is a lot to like. There's a lot of filler in this as well. But, in my time of need, I do love watching Southern Charm every week. There are so many little weird kind of storylines because Taylor, who is Shep's ex, is now dating this guy, Gaston, who used to hook up with Sally. And Sally is with this other dude that has a man bun, but Sally once had a weird maybe hookup date with Shep. They've all swapped. It feels like they've all swapped some sort of weird DNA with each other at a certain point. So it's hard to keep up with. And then obviously, you've got this breakup. And of course, the breakup I'm talking about is Craig Conover and Austin. And Austin seems befuddled about why Craig doesn't seem to care about how he's doing. Craig sometimes seems like he has this kind of laser-like focus or pretend laser-like focus on, I've got to be a businessman. Got to be a businessman, and that's what I do, and I make pillows, and everything's going good. Got this relationship. I'm a grown-up. And I love that. We should grow up. He doesn't want to get himself in a James Kennedy situation and a Tom Sandoval situation. No, he's trying to, go forward. And then you have Austin, who I think is a little bit younger. He's got his Trop Hop beer. He likes to go to Fish shows. Shout out Fish. I think he's you know what? Austin is a mix of Shep and Craig. Austin is a mix of Shep and Craig. And I think Craig is not interested in what he perceives to be Austin's still wild ways. Is that he thinks Austin, which last week's episode, he said Austin's out there drinking or like he's zannied out, which I thought was wild that Bravo left in. And now Shep is the person that's almost mediating their relationship. And one of the storylines this week was that Craig is going to go on a fishing trip with Shep, and Austin is jealous about this. You didn't invite me to go fishing? He's like bummed because Austin's like, I want to go catch fishies with my two boys. But it is weird because Craig doesn't seem to be able to back down and say that, or even admit to himself that it's okay to be concerned with how your friends are doing. And you should care about how your friends are doing. You can still do your own thing, and you can still care. You can still care. But Craig, by the end of this episode, he literally says, what's it going to take for you to sign over Pillows and Beer, our podcast, to me? Because Paige suggested, why don't you go solo? Why don't you have it be Craig and friends? Because Craig feels like he's putting the most work into this podcast. Now, as somebody who does a podcast daily, it's a lot of work. I think they do like one or two a week. And part of, I think, what makes Giggly Squad successful, I don't listen. I've seen clips, and it seems like these are two best friends, Hannah and Paige. But part of what I think probably makes that work is that, they're super, Paige is funny as flip. And it's their relationship, and they can talk about anything, and they can talk about things that are happening to women in their life, and it can be funny, and you tune in every week because it's a strong friendship that you feel like you're friends with them too. And I would imagine Pillows and Beer, which I have not listened to either, would be a similar vibe. So if the two people aren't friends anymore, then they're saying it would affect the listening or viewing experience of this podcast. Once again, man, I love that in 2025, we just fight about podcasts now. There's podcasting wars. Podcasters go after each other. I mean, it's like the mean streets of Salt Lake City. The streets of podcasting are tough, folks. I mean, it's the Tupac and Biggie of 2025 is podcasting, and specifically Pop Culture Bravo podcast. What are we doing, man? So Craig's like, well, maybe I will go solo and have it be Craig and friends. I think this is a mistake. Obviously, I don't think this will happen. And I think now is the time for Pillows and Beer. It needs to happen now more than ever because Craig needs his friends. Craig is wounded in some way, even though he might not admit it. And I think this is the time to bring back new episodes of Pillows and Beer. They have a whole dearth of episodes out there already. Are they Giggly Squad? No. Do they have to be? No. But I think now, I mean, if you're looking to monopolize or capitalize on any sort of pain, which is what we do in pop culture, now is the time to release new episodes. You're not going to break the internet, but you put a nice dent in it. I'll even listen to that episode, Craig and Austin, please. Now is the time. Heed the call. We need your podcast. You don't have to talk the breakup. Just talk about friendship shit. Talk about struggles in your own friendship. Let us in that sense. So I think this will be easily repaired, but you can tell Austin is dinged. Austin has a little ding, in his heart. Now, JT, the episode started with JT having to sit down with Craig because remember, JT, according to Craig, called Miss Patricia a bitch. And I will say, you don't call Miss Patricia a bitch. Not in my house. No. Miss Patricia, opposite of a bitch, an angel, period. So Craig said he heard at that first episode that JT called her a bitch and told Miss Patricia, and this caused shockwaves, really. And JT said, I didn't say that. And remember, Bravo, even in this episode, once again, cannot find any footage of this actually happening. Craig is saying, no, I heard it. I heard it. No, I heard it. And JT in a talking head says, he's boiling mad. I'm boiling mad. I'm going to meet up with Craig, but I'm boiling mad. I'm shaking. I'm so mad. And then you actually see the meeting and JT seems pretty calm and just like, hey, let's get along, Craig. You're great. You're cool. Like he was not as boiling mad as he, pretended to be in his talking head. Like, I would have loved him being like, Craig, you're a damn liar. You're making shit up. Like, there's no way I said it. But he's like, okay, well, I didn't. And I just, I hope we can, hang out. And Craig's like, Craig is just so, he's just like, yeah, I used to live around here. It's a pretty cool area. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason we shouldn't, be able to hang out and stuff, which then upsets Austin as well, because Austin's, how dare you hang out with JT when JT recently said that Austin is still not a great guy. So it's just all of these guys having these highly emotional reactions about their feelings, and they don't know really how to talk about it because they're men. So they just look off into the distance and say everything is okay, which really does actually make some interesting television. I will tell you, women will deal more with their emotions. I mean, it's always just cracks me up. We say this all the time. They always say women are more emotional. No, the men of Southern Charm are more emotional. The men of Bravo, the men of the universe are more emotional. But it is, I will tell you, it's like Tom Sandoval on Traitors. It's fascinating to watch, and it's really funny because you just see them struggling and they'll get upset and they're going to and the women, I mean, Sally I think is a really interesting addition. She's got a really good job, works at a hospital, all of this stuff, but at the same time seems like there might be a little something off there. And then I don't know, I'm really enjoying it, but the main storyline over there on Southern Charm is obviously what's going on with these men. And Vanita was on the pod this week, so go back and listen to that episode where we talk a little bit more about all of this. But she's just so positive and kind, and she was a delight. Now, over on right after Southern Charm, we have Southern Hospitality, which is in its third season. And I truly enjoy this show. I always recommend, if you're going to pick up Southern Hospitality, start from the second season. It gets really good in its second season. We are 3 episodes into this season, and I need people to watch this. Go stream it on Peacock. I believe in this show. And it's hard to pick up new shows. You got to be talked into it. But it's interesting. We got Emmy, who had a meltdown last week because she was confronted by other coworkers at the bar because they thought she was like pulling a fast one about store credit for their server's uniform, that she was like making out like a bandit. And she gave a full crying performance that truly makes a reality star. So Emmy was amazing to watch. But you have all of these other storylines. You have TJ, who used to room with Joe Bradley, who is now with Maddie, who he's been in love with since the beginning of the show. They're finally together. But TJ, which, by the way, JT and TJ, that's very confusing on both of these shows. You got TJ on Southern Hospitality, JT over on Southern Charm. But I keep mixing them up. That and the dyslexia is not... Anyways, but Joe and Maddie are now finally together. And Joe has this scene with Maddie's parents on the beach, and he's just so Eddie Haskell, just like, I love your daughter. He's just like the overall good guy. But this guy has shades of Jax. Now, this guy has shades of Jax, and he's done a lot of wild stuff. And there is an interesting relationship that is explored between TJ and Joe Bradley that by the end of this episode, and when going into episode 4, which I'm really excited to see next week, where something happened between them. There was a moment between TJ and Joe Bradley where Joe Bradley said, I went into bed with him and thought like, I don't know, I was drunk or something, and like kind of was just used to having a girl there, and I kind of put my arm around, and it made it seem like there something sexual went down with them, and they have a confrontation in next week's episode, which is so interesting, and I'm so curious to see how this all pans out. But to me, this is drama, but at a really nice low level that I think if you get into, it's going to pay off dividends the further you get into the show. Emmy also dates this guy, Will, who's out there being a lawyer, and Will talks mad shit about Emmy, his girlfriend, behind her back. Like literally admits it. He goes, yeah, I was just having a tough time. But they say, I read an article where they say you're supposed to bitch about your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and it kind of helps the relationship. So he's trying to get out of the fact that he's been bitching about her to everybody. She's given up drinking, got on a super health kick. He thinks she's really boring, but she doesn't know that he's been talking mad shit to everybody about her. So that's about to pop off as well. And you're like, Ryan, you're a grown man. You care about this stuff? You're damn right I do. And you should care too. So Southern Charm and Southern Hospitality, I highly recommend. And once again, it's like that thing where you're not potentially going to get it at first. You're going to be like, but I'm telling you, commit to a couple episodes. See how you feel. Let it wash over you like a virus, like a really nice, are there nice viruses out there? Let it wash over you like a nice virus. Okay, that's that. Wendy Williams, folks. Wendy Williams, a legend, like truly a legend in terms of pop culture, in terms of talking about pop culture. I came to Wendy Williams later in life. You can find so many amazing Wendy Williams episodes and clips on YouTube. And I think I told you guys a while back, we just spent one night just watching Wendy Williams clips. And it was just a fantastic night. And she was right about Diddy all along, which, by the way, there's a new I forgot to put this in what to watch this weekend. I talked about this the other day. There's a new Diddy documentary on Peacock. I believe it's Peacock, yeah. And it's actually really well done. It's like an hour and 40 minutes. And I went in going, I even said that night, I was like, I don't think I'm ready for a Diddy doc. It's intense. It is intense, but it's very well done for the time frame. Like they must have been working on this immediately, but they talk about him. They have his best friend growing up that used to live with him and his mom, Sean Combs and his mom. They have him. They have people that were like his bodyguard from the early days. It's really highly detailed. So I do recommend that as well over on Peacock. It's an intense watch, but actually weirdly well done. Well, Wendy Williams though, obviously, she started her career off as a radio host, and Charlemagne the God, obviously the Breakfast Club, I think you guys know Charlemagne the God, posted this thing on Instagram the other night of Wendy Williams will be on air with us on the Breakfast Club tomorrow. Tune in. We're going to be talking about conservatorships because that's what she's under right now. Now, if you watch the horrific docuseries about Wendy Williams that aired on Lifetime last year, I thought that was horrifying. I thought whoever was in charge of that should never have signed off on that. I thought it was very sad. It was horrifying. It made her look horrible. It was just a horrific viewing experience that I hope is wiped off the face of this earth. So my first thought when I saw that was, yay, Wendy. My second thought was, oh no, because from watching that Lifetime docuseries, you're like, I don't know if she should be anywhere near any kind of airwaves just for her own protection and to, just to ensure that she is able to be treated with respect. And that was my thing. I know Charlemagne the God goes way back with Wendy. They have a strong relationship. So I was like, they better make her look great. They better take care. So she was calling in with her niece, I believe. And she sounded good. And she even said, listen, they even asked about Diddy at the end. And she said, listen, you don't even know half the things I know about Diddy. Because remember, Diddy got Wendy fired at one of her earlier jobs because Wendy would always say that he was, would kind of like insinuate that Diddy was gay or bisexual. And Diddy got her fired at one of her jobs. So she said, Diddy done. And everybody got a laugh and she held her own. And then, so that was interesting, but it was really to say that she is stuck in this room at this place where she doesn't even go. She has access to a TV. She has one window. She's at this care facility. She doesn't go outside. She doesn't talk to anybody. She can call people, but nobody can call her. It's all run through this conservator. And they say, or making the argument that this is conservatorship abuse. She has no access to her money. And she just wants to go to Florida and be there with her 94-year-old dad and her family. And that's what they are trying to fight for. Now, even doing these interviews puts her in risk because she's afraid there will be punishments from the conservator for speaking out. Now, a lot of people will say, remember Britney Spears? She had that thing in front of the judge. We all heard the audio. And, it led to Britney, being freed from the conservatorship, which people still have strong opinions because they'll be like, well, Britney looks weird and the Instagram's just dancing around. That's unfortunately, that's how she's choosing to live her life. And you want her to be safe. You want those, it's so tricky, right? Like that's part of freedom is that you might not like what Britney is posting, that she's not performing. Britney wants to be doing twirls on Instagram. And if that's what she wants, she can do that as long as she's safe and not hurting anybody, right? Those are some basic things, whatever you believe about Britney Spears. So Wendy then, TMZ reported that Harvey Levin, the head of TMZ, had an hour and a half conversation with Wendy where he said that she sounded actually really good, that they had a very good hour and a half conversation where she seemed to be very with it. Now, the doctors and the conservator says that Wendy has dementia. She has asphasia, which is something that also Bruce Willis is suffering from. But I don't believe it's asphasia in the way that Bruce Willis has it, because Bruce Willis, from what we know, cannot communicate. Wendy still seems to be able to communicate very clearly. But obviously what we do know with dementia is that there are good days and there are very bad days. So maybe Wendy has been on this string of good days. I guess the argument too is if she is able to be back with her family, there is that concern of, well, what's to say she's not going to start drinking again? What's to say she's not going to, you just don't know. But I would hope that she could actually be free to be with the family and have some sort of guardrails in place instead of her being locked in a facility. And I don't know, that's just, it's a very sad way to go out. And I don't know, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about. Did you listen to this interview? I thought it was really, really interesting. So Wendy Williams, also Justin Bieber, his unfollowing spree continues. I believe he just unfollowed his father-in-law, Stephen Baldwin, the other night. He unfollowed Usher last week. He unfollowed Scooter Braun, and now he has unfollowed Stephen Baldwin. I would actually do that as well. Stephen Baldwin's pivoted in an interesting way. He's come a long way from Usual Suspects in the movie Biodome. He scares me. He scares, I don't, this really isn't about political beliefs or religious beliefs, but he'll go like TikTok. You'll sometimes get in Stephen Baldwin TikTok and he'll just be staring at the screen of like, it's coming. All will be revealed. And I'm like, Steven, whoa, hey, calm down, buddy. That's weird. You're being weird. You're scaring me. I think you're scaring me. So he supposedly unfollowed his father-in-law. But at the same time, it says he is working on new music. Justin Bieber just posted today a photo of him in the woods in his undies with the snow all around him. So, seems like all is well there. Listen, I was going to do a big tribute to David Lynch, but I don't think this is the episode for that, especially right after talking about Justin Bieber and Wendy Williams, even though David Lynch existed in a world where that kind of would make sense. But I'll do my David Lynch tribute another day because that man meant a great deal to me, the film director David Lynch. And, something that he would always talk about in art and cinema is that talking about the abstract, linear storytelling, but he loved the abstract. And if you've seen any of his films, you understand exactly that a lot of it lived in the abstract. And that can be really confounding and confusing and potentially upsetting to some. And some people can find the beauty in that. And I always found the beauty in that. And it was, he was a very, very interesting, great man that I'm very excited to talk more about at a certain point and maybe turn some people on to David Lynch. He's also one of those people that he never did a blockbuster movie. He was never interested in that. That wasn't his thing. But at the same time, it's like, sometimes when his movies can be difficult, but then they kind of wash over you and there's this beauty in that. It's hard to explain. So I want to do that in another episode and talk to you guys about him. But rest in peace, David Lynch. I would, it bums me out that this man is not here anymore because I think he's part of what made the world great, Just like you guys make the world great. Anyways, this is the end of this episode. Now I'm going to start over on Salt Lake, our gigantic recap of the season finale. I got to drink some coffee because I got to get into that. There is so much mess in Salt Lake City, and we're going to cover it all. Thanks, guys, for being here. Have a great weekend. Let's party.